Do you feel stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and overwhelm, unable to break through the invisible barriers holding you back from your true potential? Master Your Mindpower serves as a practical user manual for your mind, teaching you how to reprogram your unconscious to stop self-sabotage and build unwavering mental toughness. Discover how to disconnect the running parachutes of fear and limiting beliefs that create drag in your life, replacing them with emotional resilience and drive. Learn to align your daily habits with your most ambitious goals to unlock natural energy and finally achieve the massive success you deserve. Let's find out more.
Wow, that is quite the intro. It sounds a little like an infomercial for a whole new life, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, usually when I read a blurb like that, unwavering mental toughness, massive success, my skepticism alarm starts ringing.
Oh, for sure.
It just feels like we're wading into some deep guru territory. But you've gone through Master Your Mindpower by Stefan and Shali Shafidel. So is this just another cheerleading session, or is there something actually substantial here?
I completely get the skepticism. And honestly, if this book were just 300 pages of you can do it, we probably wouldn't be doing a deep dive on it.
Right.
What sets this one apart, and really why I wanted to bring it to the table, is the framing. The authors, they explicitly try to move away from that whole fairy dust approach.
Okay.
They treat the brain like a piece of high-tech hardware.
Hardware. Like a computer.
Exactly. They frame the whole concept as a user manual for your mind. Their whole argument is that we're all operating this incredibly complex supercomputer, our brain, but none of us ever, read the manual.
Right, that's so true.
We're just mashing buttons and hoping for the best, and then we wonder why the system crashes or why we get an error message when we try to do something new.
Okay, I actually love that analogy.
Yeah,
I'm definitely the guy who never reads the IKEA manual and then ends up with a wobbly table, so that really tracks for me.
Right.
But we're talking mechanics. What are the basic specs here? How do they even define mind power without it getting all mystical?
They keep it super literal. They just break the word apart. So mind is the part of you that thinks, feels, and understands.
Simple enough.
And power is just utilizing strength. So mind power isn't magic. It's just utilizing the strength of your ability to think, feel, and understand to its full capacity. It's all about efficiency.
Right. But here's the thing about hardware. Usually what you buy is what you get. You know, if I have an old laptop, I can't just will it to be a supercomputer.
Yeah.
Isn't our brain wiring kind of fixed after a certain age?
See, that's the old way of thinking, and this is where the science comes in. The authors lean really heavily on neuroplasticity.
I hear that word thrown around a lot. What does it actually mean in this context?
Well, think of your brain like a hiking trail. If you walk the same path every single day, say the path of worrying about money, that grass gets trampled down.
Okay.
It becomes a dirt road, then a paved road, then a superhighway. It gets really easy to travel down that thought pattern. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to basically tear up that pavement and lay down a new road in a totally different direction.
So we aren't stuck with the old operating system.
Not at all. Through neurogenesis, that's growing new cells, and neuroplasticity, which is forming new connections, you can physically change the structure of your brain. You can upgrade the hardware.
Wow.
But, and this is a really big but, you can't upgrade the system if you don't have a stable place to, put it.
Which brings us to the structure of the book. They have those three pillars: the foundation, mental toughness, and habits. And I know we want to spend a lot of time on the mental mechanics today, but we have to start with the foundation.
We do.
Why can't we just skip to the mental toughness part? I feel like that's the sexy part everyone wants.
Everyone wants the life hacks, right? But the authors argue that if you build mental toughness on, a shaky foundation, you just become a really resilient person who's running in the wrong direction.
That's a good point.
The foundation is all about alignment. They introduce what they call the 3 Ps: principles, passion, and purpose.
Principles, passion, purpose. It does sound a bit like a corporate retreat poster.
It can, yeah, if you don't really dig into it. But principles are your values, your personal code. Passion is the fuel, what lights you up. And purpose is the big why.
Okay.
The reason people burn out, they argue, isn't usually because they're working too hard. It's because of a misalignment between these 3 things.
And there was that story in the book about Shali, one of the authors. It illustrated this really well. She wasn't struggling in the traditional sense, was she?
No, not at all, and that's why it's so relatable. She was successful on paper, had the degrees, worked in marketing and branding, was good at it, but she just felt empty. She wasn't in flow.
I think so many listeners can identify with that.
Yeah.
You're good at your job, the pay is fine, but you just wake up dreading the day.
Exactly. That's the alignment gap. She realized her true principles and purpose were about helping people transform their lives, not just selling them products.
So it wasn't that marketing was bad, it just wasn't her.
It just wasn't her vehicle. The moment she aligned her career with her purpose, helping people directly, that feeling of drag just disappeared. She unlocked all this natural energy.
Okay, so step one is checking the foundation. But let's say I've done that. I know what I want. I have my purpose, but I still don't do it. Or I start, and then I find some way to mess it up. This is the part of the book that really, it just blew my mind. The mechanics of why we self-sabotage.
This is where we really open the hood of the car. Chapter 2. The authors present a statistic here that is honestly hard to believe at first. They compare the processing power of the conscious mind versus the unconscious mind.
Yeah, I circled this in my notes because it sounds like a typo. They say the conscious mind processes about 40 bits of information per second. 40? That seems incredibly low.
It does, doesn't it?
I feel like I'm processing more than that just listening to you right now.
It feels like more, but that's just your focus. 40 bits is roughly what it takes to listen to a conversation or read a sentence. Now compare that to the unconscious mind. The research suggests it processes about 40 million bits per second.
40 million? Wait, what is it even doing with all that bandwidth?
Everything else. It's regulating your heart rate, digesting your lunch, monitoring the temperature of your skin, filtering out background noise, and this is the crucial part, accessing every memory and belief you have ever stored.
So we have a tiny 40-bit processor trying to control a 40 million-bit supercomputer.
That's it, exactly. The authors call the conscious mind the goal setter. That's you saying, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, or I'm going to start that business.
Okay.
But the unconscious mind is the goal getter. It's the one that actually runs all the behaviors. Yeah. And if the goal getter doesn't agree with the goal setter, well, who do you think wins?
The one with 40 million bits of power.
Every single time. And this is where their concept of running parachutes comes in. It's probably my favorite metaphor in the whole book.
Okay, explain that visual for us.
So imagine a sprinter. Sometimes for training, they'll strap a parachute to their back. When they run, the chute catches the air and creates this massive drag.
Yeah, to build strength.
Yeah, it forces them to work so much harder to move forward. The authors argue that most of us are running through life with invisible parachutes strapped to us. We are sprinting toward our goals with all our conscious will, but we're dragging this massive weight of limiting beliefs behind us.
And because it's unconscious, we don't even know the parachute is there. We just think, wow, running is supposed to be this hard.
Precisely. We think, man, I'm just lazy or I'm not lucky. But really, you're literally fighting your own programming.
So where did we get these parachutes? Did I just, pick them up at the store?
You downloaded them, and usually before you were 7 years old. The authors talk about Dr. Morris Massey's concept of the imprint period.
The imprint period.
Yeah. From birth to age 7, a child's brain is basically in a theta state. It's like hypnosis. You don't have a filter. You just download your parents' fears, your culture's rules, your teacher's criticisms directly into that 40 million bit hard drive.
That is actually terrifying. So if I'm 5 and I hear my dad say, rich people are all crooks, or I see my mom looking in the mirror and criticizing her body.
You download money is dangerous or I am not enough. Then you fast forward 30 years. You're consciously trying to get rich or get fit, but your unconscious, the goal getter, is screaming, wait! Danger! If we get rich, we're bad people. Sabotage the deal.
And since it controls the show, you just accidentally miss the big meeting or you oversleep for the gym.
You call it fate. But as Carl Jung said, and they quote him in the book, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Wow.
The whole user manual concept requires you to look behind you and actually cut the cords of those parachutes.
Okay, so we have to find the parachutes. But even if we identify them, cutting them isn't easy because of that other huge barrier they talk about in Chapter 3, fear. But not just, I'm scared of spiders fear. They talk about the fear wolf.
Right. This is based on that Cherokee legend of the two wolves. A grandfather tells his grandson that inside everyone, there's a battle between two wolves.
I think I know this one.
One is fierso, anger, jealousy, doubt. The other is courage, joy, peace, love. The grandson asks which one wins, and the grandfather says,
the one you feed. It's a classic story. But how do they apply this practically? Because I feel like I don't intentionally feed my fear wolf. It just sort of steals the food.
It's sneaky. The authors point out that the fear wolf often dresses up in a tuxedo. It disguises itself as something respectable, like perfectionism.
Oh, that hits home. I always thought perfectionism was a good thing. Like, it just means I have high standards.
That's exactly what the fear wolf wants you to think. The book calls this the failure to launch. We tell ourselves, I can't release this project until it's perfect, or I can't start the diet until I buy the right shoes.
Right, I'm just being responsible.
We think we're being responsible, but really we are just terrified of being judged.
So perfectionism is just fear with a better PR team.
100%. The authors quote Voltaire, "Perfect is the enemy of good." Their advice is to aim for what they call the 90% rule.
90%, that feels incomplete.
And that's the point. 90% is exceptional. 90% gets you in the game. If you wait for 100%, you are feeding the fear wolf and you're staying in your comfort zone. The courage wolf just says, start.
Just start. It sounds so simple, but we all know that once you do start, things go wrong. You hit obstacles. And that brings us to the next big pillar, mental toughness. This isn't about not feeling pain, is it?
No, not at all. And I think that's a huge misconception. People think mental toughness means you have to be a robot. The authors define it differently. It's all about your refractory period or your recovery time. When you get knocked down, how long do you stay down? 10 years? 10 days? Or is it 10 minutes?
And they have a really specific tool for this called the ICE method. I want to dig into this because I love an actionable acronym. So what does ICE stand for?
It stands for identify, calm, and evaluate. It's a literal cooling down process for your brain when you're emotionally triggered.
Okay, walk me through it. I just messed up a big presentation. I'm totally spiraling. What do I do?
Okay, step 1. Identify. You have to name the emotion. You say, I am feeling humiliated or I am feeling anxious. Brain imaging actually shows that just naming an emotion reduces its activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center.
So you drag it from the emotional part of the brain to the logical part.
Exactly. So you've said, I'm feeling stupid. Now what's next?
I don't know, panic.
Step 2, calm. This is purely physiological. You cannot think your way out of a stress response. You have to breathe. You have to lower your heart rate. The authors really emphasize that you should not try to solve the problem yet. You are chemically impaired.
That's definitely where I usually go wrong. I try to fix the mess while I'm still panicking, and I probably just make it worse.
Exactly. You're trying to run software on an overheated machine, you have to cool it down. And only once you're calm do you move to step 3, evaluate. Now you look at the data. Why did the presentation go wrong? Oh, I didn't prepare the slides properly. Now you can actually fix it. Identify, calm, evaluate.
That middle step, calm, that seems to be the one we all skip. We want to jump right from ouch to fix.
And that leads to the broader concept of reframing. This is one of the most powerful tools in the whole book. It's the ability to change the narrative of what happened to you.
And Stephen, the author, he has a pretty intense personal story about this, doesn't he?
He does. At 16, due to some family circumstances, he found himself basically living on his own. No support, very little money. Now, the easy frame, the fear wolf frame would be, I'm a victim, life is unfair, I'm abandoned.
Which would be a totally valid way to feel in that situation.
Completely valid, but it's not useful. It's a frame that just creates drag. So he chose to reframe it. He started telling himself, this is my training. This is making me tougher than everyone else my age. While they're worrying about prom, I'm learning to survive.
He turned it from a tragedy into his origin story.
He turned the pain into power. That is cognitive reframing. It's not denying the bad thing happened. It's choosing what the bad thing means.
That is so powerful. But there's one more concept in the book that I found even more, well, challenging. It's a bit of a psychological deep dive. The whole concept that perception is projection.
Ah, yes. This is the advanced class. This is usually where people get defensive.
I know I did.
Yeah.
Because essentially the book suggests that the things that annoy us the most in other people are actually things we don't like about ourselves.
Correct. The world is a mirror.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate. If I have a boss who is disorganized, chaotic, and it makes my life a nightmare, you're telling me that's my fault, that I'm the disorganized one, because my spreadsheet says otherwise.
So it's not about the behavior itself. Your boss really is disorganized. The projection part is the emotional charge you have attached to it. Why does it make you absolutely furious instead of just mildly annoyed? Why does it ruin your weekend?
Okay, why?
Well, it might be because you're suppressing your own secret desire to be a little chaotic. Or, and this is more likely, you are terrified of losing control. You have a parachute that says, if I am not perfect and organized, then I am unsafe. So when you see someone else being careless and getting away with it, your unconscious just screams, that's not fair, that's dangerous. You are projecting your own internal shadow onto them.
So the anger isn't really at my boss, it's at the part of me that is scared of chaos.
Exactly. There was that great client example in the book, a woman who was constantly furious at her husband for being lazy and unmotivated.
I remember this. She was a super high achiever, always grinding.
Right. And through this mind power work, she realized she wasn't actually mad at him. She was projecting her own guilt about her own need for rest. She wouldn't allow herself to stop, so she attacked him whenever he did.
That's really confronting. It takes the finger you're pointing at someone else and turns it right back around at you.
It is confronting, but it's also the ultimate liberation. Because if the problem is, my boss is annoying, I can't fix that. I can't control him. But if the problem is, I am triggered by chaos because I need to control everything, that I can fix.
I see. It brings all the control back to the user manual. If the machine is overheating, stop blaming the weather and check your own radiator.
Precisely. True mind power is about taking 100% responsibility for your internal state. It's recognizing that the running parachutes are yours to cut, the fear wolf is yours to starve, and the projections are yours to heal.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. We started with the foundation, that you can't build a skyscraper on quicksand. You have to align your principles, passion, and purpose.
Then we got into the mechanics, the 40 bits versus 40 million bits. And we learned that our willpower often loses to the unconscious because we're dragging those invisible parachutes from our childhood imprint period.
And we talked about the fear wolf hiding in the tuxedo of perfectionism and how the 90% rule can help us just start. And finally, we broke down the ICE method: identify, calm, evaluate, and that really hard truth that our perceptions of others are often projections of ourselves.
It's a very comprehensive system, and if I could leave the listener with just one thought to mull over, it would be this. We often treat our emotions and our failures like these mysterious, uncontrollable weather events. Oh, I was just scared, or I just self-sabotaged again.
Right, like it just happened to us.
But if you start to treat your mind like a machine, a high-performance machine that requires specific inputs, maintenance, and programming, it all becomes manageable. Mental toughness isn't about not feeling pain or fear. It's about having the tools, the user manual, to navigate them without losing all your momentum.
So the question is,
are you treating your mind like a machine you understand or a mystery you're afraid of?
That is the question of the day. It's time to stop pushing random buttons and start learning how the gears actually turn. Thank you for watching. Please like us, share, subscribe, follow up in next topic.
Come back to continue Master Your Mind Power.
It is great to be back.
I am genuinely excited for this one. If you were with us for the last deep dive, we started unpacking Master Your Mind Power by Stefan and Shalish Shofaitel. We covered the foundation values, purpose, all that.
The blueprint phase.
Exactly, the blueprint. But today feels like, we're actually putting on the hard hats.
That's a fair comparison.
Yeah.
If part 1 was the architectural drawing, then part 2 and part 3 are?
Yeah.
Well, they're the actual construction. We're getting into the nuts and bolts of mental toughness and habits.
Yeah, I see this as the user manual section of the book because, let's be honest, it's one thing to know why you want something. It's a completely different animal to actually get your brain to cooperate when you're tired or stressed.
Or just staring at a deadline you hate.
Right.
And the Shofeitels are very clear that knowledge without application is just said.
Well, it's trivia. Today we're looking at the mechanics of resilience. How do we physically rewire the brain's default settings? And we have some really specific, kind of weird, but fascinating tools to cover. We're going to talk about why your brain is terrible at processing the word don't, why you might need to eat a cookie to do your taxes.
A personal favorite.
And why, if you see a storm coming, you need to act like a buffalo, not a cow. But let's start with part 2. Mental toughness. That's chapter 5. Now, when I hear mental toughness, I picture like a Navy SEAL shivering in the ocean. But it's not really what they mean, is it?
Not exactly. They define it less as brute force and more as focus management. It's the ability to maintain a specific focus, regardless of the chaos around you. And the best way to explain this is the blue cow paradox.
Okay, the blue cow. Lay this out for us.
It's a simple linguistic trap. If I say to you right now, whatever you do not think of a blue cow, what's the very first image that flashes into your mind?
A blue cow, obviously. It's standing right there.
Right. But why? I mean, you're a smart person. You understand the word don't. Why does your brain just disobey a direct command like that?
I assume it's just, irony.
It's actually about how the brain processes data. Think of your mind like a search engine. If you want to filter something out, your brain first has to pull up the file to identify what it's deleting.
Oh, okay.
To process do not think of a blue cow, the brain has to visualize the blue cow to know what it's supposed to be ignoring.
So you have to load the image to delete the image?
Precisely. And this is why so many people struggle with standard self-talk. They say things like, I'm not going to be nervous, or I won't procrastinate.
Or don't give up.
Yeah, and the brain just hears nervous, procrastinate, and give up. The don't is effectively silent. You're linguistically priming yourself to focus on the exact negative thing you're trying to avoid.
That is actually terrifying. We're basically sabotaging ourselves with our own grammar. So what's the fix? You just flip it.
You have to give the brain a target, not a prohibition. So instead of don't give up, you say stay persistent. Instead of don't be nervous, you say I am confident. You have to direct the focus.
Because as the book says, what you focus on expands.
That's the golden rule of the reticular activating system, or RAS.
Okay, let's pause there. The RAS, we hear this term a lot in self-help, but break it down. What is it actually doing?
The RAS is a bundle of nerves at your brainstem that it acts as a filter. Your brain is getting bombarded with millions of bits of data every second. If you paid attention to everything, the hum of the lights, the feeling of your shoes, every color, you'd go insane.
So it's the bouncer for your brain.
It is the bouncer.
Yeah.
And it lets in whatever you tell it is important. Deshae had this great experiment for it. Want to try it?
Let's do it.
Okay. I want you, and you, the listener, wherever you are, to look around your room. I want you to find everything that is red. Look for a red book, a red light. Just focus intently on finding red.
Okay. Got a red mug, red on a book spine.
Yep, got it.
Now, close your eyes. Keep them closed.
Yeah.
And now, tell me everything in the room that is blue.
I have absolutely no idea.
You didn't see any blue.
I mean, I'm sure it's there, but I was so locked in on the red, I completely tuned it out. It's like it was invisible. That is the RAS in action. The blue was there the whole time. But because you programmed your filter for red, the blue became invisible. In life, if you focus on problems, the red, you will literally not see the solutions, the blue, even if they're right in front of your face.
That is wild. It's not that the solutions aren't there. It's that we're physiologically blind to them because we're obsessing over the problem.
Exactly. And this is what Shelley talks about in her marathon story. She ran a marathon with a torn muscle.
Which sounds just excruciating.
It was. And she said the pain was screaming at her to stop. That's the red. But she used a mantra. In with the good thoughts, out with the bad thoughts. She had to aggressively tune her RAS to focus on the finish line, the blue, and filter out the pain signals.
She calls that inner voice of doubt the itty-bitty shitty committee.
She does, and we all have one. The committee that says, stop, it hurts, you can't do this. Mental toughness is just the ability to hold a board meeting and tell that committee to shut up.
I love that. Okay, so that's focus. But what about emotion? That's chapter 6. Because it's one thing to focus, it's another thing when you just feel heavy or bored.
This brings us to emotional resilience. The author's philosophy here is hug your demons.
Which sounds like terrible advice if your demon is, a bear, but metaphorically.
Metaphorically, it means you stop running from the negative emotion. You acknowledge it. You take responsibility for it. They use the phrase, be it cause. You're the cause of your emotional state, not the victim of it.
But let's get to the hack, the satisfaction state. Because when I read this, I thought, is this a diet tip? But it's actually a productivity tool.
It is a neuroassociation tool. It's designed for those tasks you absolutely dread. Doing expenses, writing a difficult email, cleaning the garage.
The stuff we procrastinate on because it feels painful.
Right, so here's the protocol. Step 1. You imagine your absolute favorite food or drink. Let's say a warm, gooey chocolate chip cookie.
Okay, I'm listening.
Step 2. You close your eyes and vividly imagine eating it. You need to actually feel the texture, taste the chocolate, and crucially feel that hit of dopamine, that wave of satisfaction.
Okay, so I'm hacking my reward system. I'm feeling the cookie joy.
Step 3. Immediately switch your visualization to the boring task, the spreadsheet.
Oh, let's see.
It's 4. Immediately switch back to the cookie. Get that feeling again. Then back to the spreadsheet. Then back to the cookie.
Wait, so I'm just flipping back and forth. What does that actually do?
Think about Pavlov's dogs. Pavlov rang a bell, gave the dogs food. Eventually, the dogs would salivate just at the sound of the bell.
Right.
You're doing the same thing. You are cross-wiring the neural pathways. You're taking the dopamine response from the cookie and smearing it onto the spreadsheet.
So I'm leaking the satisfaction from the food onto the work.
Exactly. You're associating the feeling of reward with a task that usually triggers avoidance. If you do this enough times, your brain starts to go, oh, spreadsheets feel good.
That is some Jedi mind trick stuff. But I can see why it works. You're bypassing logic and going straight to the chemistry.
You're hacking the unconscious, which is really the theme of the whole book.
So we've got focus, we've got the emotional hack. Now we need structure. Part 3, habits. Because you can have a great mindset, but with terrible habits, you're still stuck. And this brings us to Chapter 9 and my favorite analogy in the whole book, the buffalo versus the cow.
This is a profound image. It's set on the plains of Colorado. A massive storm is coming over the Rockies.
So dark clouds, thunder, lightning, a bad time.
A very bad time. Now, on the plains, you have cows and you have buffalo. When the cows sense the storm, their instinct is fear. So they run away from it.
Which makes sense. Run away from the scary thing.
Ideally, yeah. But cows are slow, and the storm is fast. So the storm inevitably catches up to them. But here's the tragedy. Because the cows are running in the same direction as the storm, they're running with it.
Oh, I see where this is going.
They maximize the amount of time they spend inside the chaos. They're cold, wet, and miserable for the longest possible duration because they're trying to outrun something that's faster than they are.
That is a brutal metaphor for procrastination. We avoid the difficult conversation, but by avoiding it, we just live in the anxiety of it for weeks.
Exactly. You're running with the storm. Now, the buffalo, they do the opposite. When they sense the storm, they turn and charge directly into it.
Which sounds suicidal.
Looks counterintuitive, but think about the physics. By running against the wind, they minimize the time they spend inside the storm. They punch through it and get to the clear skies on the other side in a fraction of the time.
So the pain is more intense, maybe, but it's much, much shorter.
Much shorter. And this is the core of their habit philosophy. Be the buffalo. When you have a problem, don't delay. Run into the storm.
Which brings us to how they structure their day to be buffaloes, the MVP system.
Most valuable priorities. It's a planning system.
I have to stop you here. I read the section on the golden question. They say you should identify your priorities, but they are really strict about the number.
They are. They use a quadrant system, quadrant 1, 2, and 3. But for quadrant 1, the top priority, they ask, if there was one thing I had to do tomorrow, what would it be?
Just one. Because honestly, most people listening, myself included, have about 10 fires burning by 9 a.m. If I only pick one thing, doesn't everything else fall apart?
That's the common fear. But the Shafidals argue that if you have 10 priorities, you actually have 0.
Because you're splitting your focus too thin?
Because when you have 10 tasks, human nature dictates you'll do the easiest ones first. You'll answer emails, you'll organize your desk, you will avoid the buffalo task. By forcing you to pick one absolute must-do, it clarifies what actually moves the needle.
So it's a forcing function. You do the big thing first.
Exactly. The other tasks go in the on-deck section. You still do them, but not until the MVP is done. It stops you from confusing being busy with being productive.
Speaking of being busy, Chapter 10 hits on something that validates my need for naps. Ultradian rhythms.
This is the biology of productivity. We often think we should be able to sit at a desk for 8 hours and just grind. The human brain isn't built for that.
We aren't machines.
No. We run on cycles. Ultradian rhythms are these 90-minute cycles of high energy followed by a trough of low energy. The authors recommend jam sessions.
But your 90-minute blocks.
90 minutes of intense single-task focus. No phone, no email, no multitasking. Then you take a break. If you try to push past that 90 minutes, you're getting diminishing returns.
And they are really against multitasking. They have a formula for flow, right?
Yes. Mental toughness plus exceptional habits equals flow. But flow can't happen if you're tab switching every 30 seconds. Multitasking is the enemy of depth.
So we have the mindset, the habits, the schedule. Now we look forward. Chapter 11 is about BEGS, big effing goals.
I appreciate their directness with that acronym.
Yeah, me too. But the part that really stopped me was the visualization technique. High definition visualization. We've all heard visualize success, but they add a step that I found really confusing at first. Step 4, pop out of the picture.
This is the step most people miss. Usually, when we visualize, we do it from a first-person perspective. We're looking out through our own eyes.
Right. I'm imagining seeing the finish line.
The Shafidals say you need to dissociate. You need to step out of your body and watch yourself in the movie achieving the goal.
Why? Why does that matter? Wouldn't I want to feel it?
You do feel it in the earlier steps. But the act of stepping out and watching yourself signals to the unconscious mind that this is a completed event. It encodes it almost like a memory of something that has already happened, not a daydream you're hoping for.
Huh. That's a subtle distinction. A daydream feels like now, but a movie feels like a record.
Exactly. You're tricking the brain into believing the success is a historical fact that just hasn't manifested yet. You project certainty onto that image, and then insert that screen into your future timeline. It builds a different kind of confidence.
It's like programming the GPS. You're locking in the destination.
Precisely.
But, and here comes the reality check, chapter 12. You can visualize, eat cookies, plan your day, but none of it matters if you don't take action.
Mind-powered action. And the biggest barrier to action is perfectionism.
They call perfectionism procrastination in a fancy suit.
It is so true. We wait until we're ready or until the plan is perfect. The authors say 90% is acceptable because 100% is impossible. If you wait for 100%, you never start.
You have to just go, feed the action. Which brings us to the conclusion of the book and the story that ties all of this together. The parable of the two wolves.
It's a classic story, but it fits perfectly here. A Cherokee grandfather is speaking to his grandson. He tells him, "There is a fight going on inside me. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves."
One is the fear wolf.
Right. It represents fear, anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, all of it.
And the other is the courage wolf.
That one represents joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, truth, compassion, and faith.
And he says, the same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too. The grandson thinks about it for a minute and then asks, which wolf will win?
And the grandfather simply replies, the one you feed.
The one you feed. That is the synthesis of everything we've talked about today, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, think about the blue cow. When you focus on what you don't want, you are feeding the fear wolf.
And when you focus on the solution, you feed the courage wolf.
When you run away from the storm like a cow, you feed the fear wolf.
Mm.
When you charge in like a buffalo, you feed the courage wolf.
And when you use these tools, the cookie hack, the 90-minute jams, you're systematically starving the fear wolf.
It's not about killing the fear wolf. It's always there. It's about making the courage wolf stronger.
Strong foundation plus mental toughness equals invincible beliefs. Strong foundation plus exceptional habits equals outstanding behaviors. That's the formula.
That's it.
So as we wrap this up, I have a question for you listening right now. Look at your day today. Look at the last hour. Look at how you reacted to that little bit of stress. Which wolf did you feed?
It's a question worth asking every single morning.
It really is. This book, Master Your Mindpower, is just a toolkit for feeding the right wolf. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. I'm definitely going to try the cookie hack on my expense report later.
Let me know if it works.
I will. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, follow up in next video.